Okay, then we'll move to the Law and Licensing Committee agenda. Committee Chair Jennifer Gravitt.
Okay, just to clarify, this is standards and assessment. I don't want to be responsible for law and licensing.
Thank you very much. Standards and assessment.
Okay. Our first item is the standards revision process, which hopefully the board is pretty familiar with this. I know our committee is, and I think we made some good changes. You can kind of look through the motions, but probably the thing that's most notable is that on step 5, instead of going to the standards committee, it would go before the full board. So the motion for the board is that the committee moves that the board approve the standards revision process draft 3.
The motion for the board is that the board approve the standards revision process draft 3. Discussion to that motion? Okay, I see none. Please vote. Board Member Lear, are you voting? Are you a no? Okay. That motion passes unanimously. Again, Board Member Bolter did not cast a vote. It's not present. Okay, if you want to continue, go ahead.
Okay, our second actionable item is R277912, the law enforcement related incident reporting. And this is an amendment, and probably the most notable thing is there's a date change that you probably noticed. The motion before the board is the committee moves that the board approve R277912 draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve R277912 draft 2 on second and final reading. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously with Board Member Bolter not voting. Go ahead.
I wish it were a potion. That'd be exciting. Okay, our next actionable item is R277723. This is a new program, the Start Smart Utah program, and it's a rule that was created because of House Bill 222. So the motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve R277723 draft 3 on second and final reading.
The motion before the board is that the board approve R277-723 draft 3 on second and final reading. Discussion to the motion? I see none. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Board Member Bolter did not vote.
Okay, our next item is the school counselor to student ratios. You might remember from last time that we sent back Davis and Iron, and they resubmitted their plans, and so we looked at those and liked them. The motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve the plans for the 2020-2021 school year submitted by LEAs who are out of compliance with the 1 to 350 school counselor to student ratios.
Okay, the motion is the board approve the plans for the 2020-2021 school year submitted by LEAs who are out of compliance with the 1 to 350 school counselor to student ratios. Is there discussion to that motion? Board Member Lear?
It's down. I'm on
Okay, thank you.
Slow mo today.
Okay. Board Member Belknap?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was interested if there was any discussion on changing that 350 and also any discussion on how to help districts, if there's anything discussion on finances with that, and how does 350 compare to other states with our ratio? So kind of 3 questions there. Jenny, did you have any of that?
Well, I will defer, but also I will say what I know. We didn't have a lot of discussion on changing the ratio because I didn't believe that was in our power to, but nationally it's 1 to 250. But I don't know if staff would like to comment on that because money's always a concern.
This is Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman. I'm wondering if we can have Jerry Sager speak to this.
Great, thank you.
Just go ahead.
I don't believe Jerry Sagers is currently in the room.
We can request to get back with that second question.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, the motion before the board is to approve the plans for the 2020-2021 school year submitted by LEAs who are out of compliance with the 1 to 350 school counselor to student ratios. Please vote. Board Member Haynes. Okay, Board Member Bolter, are you with us? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Board Member Bolter not apparently present. Okay.
Okay, next we have our 277622. This is an amendment. This is the school-based mental health qualified grant program. And it reflects the changes that were authorized in law by House Bill 323. The motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve R277622 school-based mental health qualified grant program, draft 1 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion for the board is that the board approve R277622 school-based mental health qualified grant program, draft 1 on second and final reading. Discussion to that motion? Board Member Marsh? Nope. Okay, I see no discussion. Please vote. Board Member Hanson? Okay, Board Member Bolter? That motion passes. That motion passes. Board Member Bolter not present.
Okay, next item is competency-based endorsement design process. And this is just a process for establishing the content knowledge competency requirements required for the associate and professional endorsements. The motion for the board is that the committee moves that the board approve the competency-based endorsement design process draft 2.
The motion for the board is that the board approve the competency-based endorsement design process draft 2. Discussion to that motion? Board Member Earl?
I'm wondering if we could get a clarifying question asked. I've done just a little bit of research into this, and there's kind of a couple of different philosophies in this, and I'm trying to understand what Utah is intending to do. One of those is where you measure individuals almost like I don't know if personality test is exactly right, but you measure a prospective teacher, someone who's going into the field, and ask them, see if they have these qualities and kind of base their decision on moving forward into the program as to whether or not they possess the qualities. So that's kind of one approach Missouri and others have taken. Or there's those where we know that there's certain successful attributes that, you know, are highly successful, and we do trainings to help individuals become more successful in their classrooms. So I'm just wondering what approach is Utah taking? This looks like it's the first approach, but I'm trying to understand exactly what the implementation of this would be. And I'm talking specifically about the dispositions, teacher dispositions element. I don't know if Patty or someone can speak to that.
I can speak to it if you allow. Jennifer Thronson.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Jennifer Thronson, Director of Teaching and Learning. And with the dispositions, it's something that we're kind of wanted to open the opportunity for our committees to look at as they do the design for the endorsements. So traditionally in teacher preparation, dispositions are part of that work, and looking at some of the general teaching dispositions that you would want, like a relationship with students that's positive and supportive. In this way, it's more specific to the content or the endorsement being earned. So are there particular dispositions needed? For example, productive struggle in both literacy and mathematics is something that we want to instill in our students. And do we have teachers that are also instilling that experience in students, that it's okay that we struggle sometimes, but that we work through it and we ask for help and we take perseverance to go through those. But we want teachers that are also kind of encouraging that mindset with students. So as we look for dispositions, we're looking at the research literature around what is that in the space of the content areas. For example, there are assessments of dispositions out there that our design committees might look at to see if we want to incorporate some of those competencies in those disposition, I wouldn't call them evaluations, but profiles or assessments to allow for us to look holistically at the educator. So there's content knowledge that we want our educators to have. There are skills that they would need to have in that endorsement area. So if it's CTE and they're teaching a welding course, there are certain skills that they would need to possess to be able to demonstrate for students. And then dispositions. Safety is a huge concern in a CTE classroom, such as welding, where safety is going to be an area that we want our teachers to be really well aware of, as well as have kind of a disposition that safety is going to be critically important. So as we look with our design teams, they'll be looking to see, are there certain dispositions that we want to be able to evaluate and look at, or have demonstrated competency for as part of the endorsement work. So at this time, it's more the opportunity to look at those dispositions, not so much exactly what that looks like yet.
May I just make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
I guess I am concerned about measuring dispositions. Once again, I've voiced it over other items, but we're getting into a realm that's really hard to measure. And I'm concerned that we may be profiling people in a way that we may not be getting in the creativity or the innovative ideas that may come from individuals who may have different dispositions, so to speak. So I can see teacher training is one thing, but when we start weighing out people's dispositions or trying to measure those dispositions, and it's where we don't even know what we're going to for sure be doing yet, I have some big concerns about that, where we might be removing some teachers that would be highly successful because they don't meet, a standardized disposition for certain areas. So anyways, yes, but I would look at this more as training. So I do have concerns over this. Thank you.
This is Deputy Superintendent. May I follow up?
Yes.
So most of the programs that are measuring disposition, they're measuring disposition as a behavior, not what's in the mind, but what is exhibited afterwards. For example, some of these dispositions are things that are observed, showing up on time, professionalism, displaying kindness, having an attitude that students are able to learn. And so that's how a disposition is measured, is through an observable behavior.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing board member thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands, the motion before us is that the board approve the competency-based endorsement design process draft 2. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes. 1 no vote, board member Earl, and board member Bolter did not vote. Okay.
Okay, item 12.8, This is an amendment and a continuation of R277606, the Dropout Prevention and Recovery Program. It was amended as a result of House Bill 376, the Dropout Prevention Amendments. And the motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve and continue R277606, Dropout Prevention and Recovery Program, Draft 1 on second and final reading.
Okay. The motion is that the board approve and continue R277606, Dropout Prevention and Recovery Program, Draft 1 on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? I see none. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes with 1 no vote. Board Member Belknap. Board Member Bolter is present for the vote.
Okay, item number 12.9, R277707. This is an amendment and a continuation. It's the Enhancement for Accelerated Students Program. And this is just focusing on the gifted and talented program so that the other will be addressed in a different rule. Anyway, that was the major change there. The motion before the board is the committee moves that the board approve and continue R277707, Enhancement for Accelerated Students Program, Draft 2 on second and final reading.
The motion is that the board approve and continue R277707, Enhancement for Accelerated Students Program, Draft 2 on second and final reading. Discussion to that motion. Board Member Lear.
I just had a question for the chair, if I may.
Yes.
I can see multiple changes. I just wondered about the notion of the purpose for the change, and if you remember, and the discussion. It seems like this is moving to fewer state standards or USBE standards and more local standards. Can you speak to that, Jenny?
I hope so. And if this doesn't answer your question, we'll let somebody smarter than I am. But in general,
the change, and if you remember in the discussion, it's
sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Is it okay to speak?
Yes, I believe it's cleared up. Go ahead.
Okay, so Carol, it was split because this one used to also include the early college program and the AP and the IB programs. But when you had Senate Bill 151, the bill split out the gifted and talented. And so this rule will just focus directly on gifted and talented, which in a way it's really good because then, you get to focus on those kids. And so it allows for more detailed focus on that program. And then the other one will be addressed in the next motion, which is R277701. I don't know if that was your question. I was having trouble hearing.
Okay, if you want to continue, go ahead.
Okay, our second actionable item is R27.
Okay, wait, sorry, just a second.
Whoa.
That wasn't me really speaking, that was my ghost. Sorry.
That was me. I was like, my mouth is closed.
Okay. Board Member Lear, does that answer your question?
yes, enough. I could have listened to the discussion, and I will do that for any further questions. I thought gifted and talented language was also sort of passé, but it's apparently still the current language. Is that right also, Jenny?
Right. And you should talk to, I think, Shannon Olson. Wait, is that Shannon Olson?
Yes.
Anyway, she was great to talk to and has a lot of information about that. And I learned a lot just in what it all entails and how really, in some ways, this has been needed for a while so that it's not just, set in the background, but it's very important. So.
Thanks. I'll follow up. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, the motion before us is the board approve and continue R277707, Enhancement for Accelerated Students Program, Draft 2 on second and final reading. Please vote. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Carry on.
Okay, this is our last one. No, it's not. It's our second to last one. This is R27701, the early college program. This is new, and then this takes into account, this addresses the early college program, which includes AP classes, IB program. So it's enhancement for out of the accelerated students program. So it just splits them. And then I do want to tell you that I will give the motion before the board, but I have an alternative motion to make. We had some last minute changes. So the motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board approve R277-7011 early college programs draft 2 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion is that the board approve R277-701 early college programs draft 2 on second and final reading. Okay, do you want to go ahead? Any discussion to that motion, Board Member Gravitt?
Okay, so I would like to make an amendment and have it read, the committee moves that the board approve R277-701 early college program draft 3 on second and final reading. I guess that would be third.
Okay. So the is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Okay, the amendment is to change draft 1 to draft 3. Is there any discussion to that amendment? Board Member Earl?
Where am I finding that at? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it in my documents. Can someone help me?
Same.
And I can talk to what the change is if you'd like me to.
Yeah, do we have a copy of draft 3?
I just don't see it in my documents. I didn't read through it. I don't know what we're talking.
Okay, if it's not in there, maybe staff can, I don't know, Jeff, could you put it up on there, the changes you made, and I'll kind of talk through them? Or not changes you made, but the changes that were made. In essence, it was, there's a definition for repeated, because if you look in section 4, it talks about like reimbursement. The superintendent may not distribute CE funds to an LEA for reimbursement. And then letter C, it says for a CE course repeated by a student. And then what's added in draft 3 is as defined in subsection R277-701-2 parentheses 7. And then the definition for repeated, it means the retaking of a concurrent enrollment course that the student has already successfully completed. So that's different. If a student didn't successfully complete it, that's a different story than a student who did, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you're saying just if they wanted a better score kind of a thing or a better grade, it's not, okay, I understand.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff Van Holten could speak to it more if we have more detailed questions.
So just for clarification, on the screen it says draft 1, but is it true that these 2 changes that you pointed out in blue are the changes from draft 2 to draft 3? Is that
Yes,
correct?
that should be draft 3.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Board Member Belknap?
Chair, for a point of clarification, isn't this still draft 2 that was moved out of committee, and then Jenny is making an amendment to draft 2?
So let me speak to that. We had a couple of changes in committee. One was we had lines 23 to 25. They were stricken completely. And then line 87, we took out as defined in section 53F to 408, et cetera. So there were a couple of just little changes made. So out of committee, we moved draft 2, and then that's why this would be draft 3. And we have Nathan Ock available if we need more clarification or comments.
I still think it's draft 2 with an amendment that Jenny is making. I don't think it's necessarily draft 3, but go ahead, Chair.
Yeah, we can do it either way. It can be as amended, an amendment, or it can come forward as a third draft. So
I'm okay with either, whatever works
okay.
best.
So we'll move forward with draft 3, recognizing that it's line 35 and 36 that was changed, and then was it 10 something? 1054. Those are the changes from draft 2 to draft 3. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. I can find the motion again, excuse me. Okay, the motion before us is we're on the amendment. So we are moving from draft 2 to draft 3. All in favor of the amendment to move from draft 2 to draft 3, please vote. Board Member Davis, Board Member Lear. Board Member Lear, are you present?
I just had word from Carol that her connection is off. So I think she's
Off.
on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that motion passes unanimously. Board Member Lear not present for the vote. Okay, so that takes us back to the main motion, which is to that the board approve R277701 draft 3 on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? I see none. Please vote. Okay, just asking for clarification. Board Member Lear, are you present? Yes. Yes. Board Member Lear, we're
yes.
voting. Okay, we're voting on R277701 draft 3. Are you a aye or a nay?
Aye.
Okay,
And
thank
aye.
you. Thank you. That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, our final one is just a repeal. It's R277713, the concurrent enrollment of students in college courses. And it's just being repealed because it was addressed in 701 and 701. So the motion before the board is that the committee moves that the board repeal R277713, concurrent enrollment of students in college courses on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion is that the board repeal R277713, concurrent enrollment of students in college courses on second and final reading. Any discussion to that motion? I see none. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
And that concludes the report for standards and assessment.
Great, thank you very much.